institutions across the globe want to grow their innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems. But where do you begin, and which schools should you look to for inspiration and best practices? In this video, Ruth Graham, international entrepreneurship ecosystem researcher, shares key takeaways from her report, Creating University-Based Entrepreneurial Ecosystems, Evidence from Emerging World Leaders. She describes where you should look for inspiration and best practices, and the importance of thinking and working in a holistic, sustained manner. So let's say you're trying to grow your institution's innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. Some institutions look to schools like Stanford and MIT for best practices and models.
Of course, there's a huge amount to be learnt from those institutions, but actually there's also a lot to be learnt from what I would call emerging leaders. And those are universities who are developing an entrepreneurial profile within more challenging conditions. And these universities can offer a lot of insight in two particular domains. Firstly, in how do you transform an institution from a traditional university model to an entrepreneurial model? And secondly, how do you do that in conditions that aren't necessarily conducive to entrepreneurship and innovation?
So if you're at a university that is geographically isolated or with limited access to venture capital, looking to MIT and Stanford for models may not be your best bet. Instead, look at the approaches used by emerging leaders like University of Michigan and their common success factors. So what are these common success factors? The first factor is the strength of the student-led efforts.
One of the most striking common features was to do with the strength of the student-led entrepreneurship movement, how vibrant that was and what they were able to do in entrepreneurship and how they connected with the regional community was really a foundation stone for what the university was then subsequently able to do in entrepreneurship.
The second common factor among these emerging leaders was the strength of leadership support of entrepreneurship.
Very often the university presidents, the university leadership would be very strong and vocal in their support of entrepreneurship in a way that was really understood by the community, by staff and students.
So there is strength at the top with leadership and strength at the bottom with student grassroots efforts. However, to foster a truly robust ecosystem, universities must also develop strength in university-led activities such as courses, programs, activities, and spaces that support students and faculty. Departmental culture, including incentives for faculty to engage in entrepreneurship research and education efforts, and in the off-campus ecosystem, building relationship of mutual trust and benefit between the campus and the broader community.
Integrating entrepreneurship and innovation across, in a meaningful way, all of those five groups helps to distribute the responsibility and to really create a community and an ecosystem that's thinking about entrepreneurship and innovation as part of its ongoing activities.
Sounds easy, right? Well, it really depends on your own institution and where your strengths lie. For a number of emerging leaders, the tough nut to crack is departmental culture.
You had this strength at the top, you had this strength at the bottom, but the section in between, the engine of a university, the departments, actually entrepreneurship was very often almost invisible. You looked at the incentive structures for faculty, entrepreneurship wasn't there.
So what we see for many institutions is a tension between the traditional incentives associated with research output and the need for new incentives associated with innovation and entrepreneurship. For other institutions, the challenge is fostering student engagement, and for others, it is leadership buy-in. The challenge for you is to understand where across each of these categories your institution's strengths and weaknesses are so that you can leverage your strengths and devote extra efforts to strengthening the weaker categories. That way, all five categories are balanced. Next, sustain your efforts by growing your network.
As a faculty member, you can establish a strong community, both within and outside the university, and really create a network, a strong network of people who understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. You both are able to create those authentic experiences for students, but also if you do leave or if you go sick or whatever it is, you've got a whole community of people who really understand what you're doing and can step in and continue that work.
So to recap, while MIT and Stanford provide excellent examples of entrepreneurial ecosystems, consider looking at emerging leaders that are creating ecosystems in perhaps more challenging environments. Try to look for institutions that may be encountering the same kinds of challenges as you. And finally, as you develop your plan for growing your ecosystem, consider the 5 success factors: student-led efforts, leadership support, university-led activities, departmental culture, off-campus ecosystem.